right, I think it's working. Oh, it's a special kind of stream, yeah, baby. I will be joining you in just a moment. Stuff. Let me. Right. You're stupid. There it is. Okay. Let's. Oh, I need my chat room up, and then we'll be ready to go. I'm behind the scenes doing stuff. Oh yes. Let's see which button. This one will work. I know it. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks' Mornings Mega Worldwide. It's a special Thursday edition. I was trying to get it so that I could make up for the day we'd missed Philip Ittner yesterday because it was New Year's Day. And apparently he can't do it because he's in a war zone. And so he can kind of set his own schedule as far as I'm concerned. But hello. Also, I just had to show off my new Diamond Streamlabs jacket. I may not have reached that 100,000 subscriber mark, but apparently, and I crossed this line a long time ago. I look tired. I have been traveling a lot. It's okay. It's all right. It's early. So I apparently crossed like some sort of weird, bizarre, little-known streaming marker on Twitch, and they sent me a free jacket. I got a free jacket with a diamond, and it's not a real diamond, and it has a little glint on it, like a little icon in the little Streamlabs. Yes, it's stupid. but I haven't gotten my 100,000 subscriber thing because I got to cross that line. But still, this means real viewer hours, real interaction, real non-bot interaction. You can get any number of YouTube plaques by flooding your subscribers with. I thought it should be a members only jacket. It's just a bomber's jacket, but it's really good. It's nice. It's got the old like cigarette zipper on the side, which also works for, I guess, ID cards and the like when you're traveling. Although removing them from my little wallet thing that I have would be madness. And I don't think the whole thing would fit in there. So what are you gonna do? But been there, got the jacket, move on. So, anyways, I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of the chat room that we have managed to grow and I don't know, bonsai over time, because definitely growth is important on social media, but also clipping the dead branches and pulling the weeds, also very important. Yep. And not the kind of weed you're talking about, and the kind that every time I bring it up, people get mad at me. Why does everybody get mad at me for not smoking pot, but being accepting of people who do, but reasonable in my approach to it? Why? Why is that? Why do you get so mad? If it's allegedly the peace pipe, what is happening? All right. So I'm just going to be a dick to you guys forever now after the last couple of times I brought this up. So anyways, thank you, Twitch people. As you are small but mighty, and your eyeballs have sent me over that line. Apparently several months ago, because I didn't know I had to click a little thing. Pam Johnson, but you are a dick. Yes. But, it's kind of, what is that, that old Woody Allen line from, I want to say it's Annie Hall. I'm a bigot, but, for the left. So, I'm a dick, but I'm on your side. It's that old theory that a superhero is a monster that's on your side, which is really not what it is, and it's lazy, and it's what gives us movies like The Joker and series like The Penguin, where you're like, we need to humanize these murderers who gas hundreds of people. I think there's a lot to be learned. Sure there is. Okay, so lots has been happening, and like I said, again this morning, I was going to have Phil on, but he's going to be on tomorrow for the first hour. I hope we're going to try and arrange this, and then Rob Glenn can only make the second hour, so I think we'll have a nice full show. And let's see, hi, and and Andreas was teaching the granddaughter to drive this morning. That's awesome. He said that hour will work. Perfect. Showed. Yes. Excellent. Okay. So we're just going to do a kind of, it's just the two of us. We'll just do an hour, if that's all right, just to catch you up on some stuff that's going round. Yeah, Just Hal is a full show. Believe me, I never need any help filling the time with the talking, because I don't just love the sound of my own voice. I fucking adore it. I appreciate it on a level that I think only history will recognize, as Hal Sparks would always say when he was Hal Sparksing on Hal Sparks Megaworldwide. Hal was a kid tweaker, right? That's gonna end up on my Wikipedia page. God damn it. There's a couple of funny things we'll get to, but there's also some like kind of big news, and this, I think, is probably no, it won't work. The immersive reader, maybe, I don't know. Hold on, let me grab this. I'm going to see if I can put this in another window and see if it will play a little better, because I have this issue with, no, it won't let me do it. Zoom, it'll read it aloud. It will do this, but it can't remove the friggin' ads from it. No, okay, never mind. Okay, here's the kind of big side news, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Has Assad been poisoned in Russia? What we know. Hal knows he's a narcissist. Yes, but I come by it naturally, I will say. I'm not a narcissist about my looks, my height, or my the amount of fast twitch muscle in my body. I'm a total skill narcissist, and I think that's earned, and I think it's completely okay. So anyways, we'll get to that later. And look at that, a hype train on Twitch already. Look, I guess people really are worth your salt, as the Romans used to say. So, a Russian Telegram channel that's also been the one that said, Putin uses body doubles, which is true, and that he was been sick and puffy and all that kind of shit, which is also true, has claimed that Bashar al-Assad may have been poisoned, sparking online speculation about the fate of the Syrian dictator after he fled to Moscow. Now, the interesting thing to this, hold on, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so you guys can see it. Ooh, that's a lot. What we know. Let's see, it's been a source of... Okay. In the post written in Russian and English on its channels, it said, there's every reason to believe that an assassination attempt was made on Assad, adding that he had, and this is the true part that we know for sure, complaining to his security team about feeling unwell, having trouble breathing, and asked for medical help. Now, I gotta say, if being deposed as a minor monarchy and having, hit squads all over the world wanting to kill you from the myriad of rebel groups, getting their money together either through oil or opium or all the other trades these assholes are involved in. If those folks wanting to kill you and never being able to go home and having to flee to fucking Moscow, which is a dump, doesn't give you panic attacks, I don't know what will. And so I'm going to go with it was a panic attack. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I think Bashar al-Assad is having panic attacks, and I don't see him getting kind of any treatment for panic attacks in any normal way in Russia. And I don't care, because he's awful, so fuck him. Assad better check his underwear for poison. Well, again, so we also now know his wife has UK citizenship. I believe she's British born. But they're not letting her back into the country, and they've been using this thing that she has cancer and needs treatment there, and so they're trying to use that as an excuse for her to get out of Russia and go there. Now, I gotta say, how does Putin claim that that Russia is as advanced as any country in the world, that it is, top tier and all this stuff, and they don't have marginal cancer treatments in line with other first world countries, at the very least, with all that oil money and all that the giant fucking doors he walks through all the time that make him look like the mayor of the Munchkin City. Is it just me? It's got to be just me. It's just me. That's what it is. We'll just deal with it. Just me. Apparently, even the thought that the alleged country with an economy the size of Italy's, but has the second biggest military in the world and the largest working nuclear arsenal in the world, I'm starting to think that the rest of that might be bullshit. You know what I mean? A sociopath with panic attacks like Tony Soprano. Yeah, here's the thing. I think most people who have panic disorder or panic attacks, often, sure, there's that, I believe personally that worry is weaponized imagination. Worry is when you take your imagination and you use it against yourself, or someone else makes you worry, which is throwing a bit in the mouth of your imagination and telling it where to go. And you start imagining bad things instead of possibilities or solutions and that kind of stuff. So that's where worry comes from. And a lot of times worry will reach a breaking point where it will pop into anxiety. And I'm not talking about physical, biological anxiety disorder. They can put that in another box. But we're talking about people who just engage with, a lot of stressors, and it's kind of like people who are like, their doctor will tell them they're going through depression when they're mourning the death of a loved one. That's not depression. That's sorrow. You could argue that I think whether seated by a real thing or, or again, with that weaponized imagination concept, carried on by a rumination, fixation on something. The depression is, when it's really depression, is sorrow over nothing tangible. Sorrow, just kind of generalized sorrow, right? And it might be little bits of stuff. You can always, believe me, in this world with 8 billion people and as many arguments, I guess half as many arguments as there are people, at least, that there's plenty to worry about and there's plenty to get depressed about. But fixating on it is what determines your emotion, and how the status of it also matters, right? And so worry, I think, would be the clinical, this is my own definition, there's kind of layman's terms. Depression is abstract sorrow. Panic attacks start in the brain, not nerves. Yeah, right, because it starts with how you feel about stuff. No one in a good mood has panic attacks during the good mood. It's usually something else creeps up on you. Now, sometimes it can be a compression of the diaphragm, and that gets us to, you guys know, one of my sticking points about you folks that spend time on your phones. All right, my dad and my mom both are screenagers. They are older people who are on their phones a lot, and they do this. People do this all the time on their phone. Okay, now, it's bad enough for your neck that you're looking down at your phone like this. And it should be, at some point, there's a social wall that is created when you put your phone up and look at it like it's a person right there, because you got to find a gap in the people around you, and it doesn't look like you're just blocking people, right? But it's socially awkward to look at your phone like this, right? When it shouldn't be, but it is. And so everybody does it like this. And it's bad for your neck, it's bad for your posture, all that stuff. But the other thing it's bad for is the compression of your diaphragm. That's right, Mary. The bad breathing posture. It pushes down on your diaphragm, which pushes down the lower part of your lungs, and you can't take a deep breath. And what happens when you can't take a deep breath? You panic. You have fight or flight lives in the top part of your lungs, right? All that cheap and dirty oxygen exchange happens between here and here. It does not happen in your belly. That's why they always say I forget how is it, a monk breathes in his belly, a sage breathes in his heels, meaning the deeper your breath gets, the calmer you get, because at least whatever else is going on, your body knows we're not going to run out of air. Because your body and your brain, working together, have a couple of things they have to check off. Right? They have a few things they have to check off. They're like, I have enough air, enough water, and enough food. And in that order. And if you're not breathing right and you're dehydrated, that's enough. Right? That's enough. Those two things alone are extraordinary pressure on your nervous system, your emotional state, the symbiosis between your brain and your physical body. Pranayama for the win. That's right. So at the very least, I would say to you, if you're watching the show on your phone or something like that, do me a favor and I will try and remind you. Maybe I need a little graphic that goes, sit up straight. But there's a reason why parents did that. They would slap kids and say, sit up straight. Why was that? Why was that so important that you'd smack your kid? You might not smack him for not cleaning his room. You might not, smack him for a myriad of things. But why that? Because it affects their growth. Because denial of oxygen and denial of and bad posture, you grow poorly physically. You will grow from a child to an adult. Yeah, posture is so important. So I see my dad, when he's on his phone and he's squunched like this, and with his health problems, I keep trying to get him to pull his shoulders back, sit up straight. At the very least, if you're going to be on your phone. The other thing is, if you're going to be on your phone for a length of time and you have access to a computer, have it up there. Or get a stand. Just do that. Those little selfie stands that you can get? Get one of those. If you're going to be there all the time, yeah. And this applies to our maggots and trolls as well, because I know there are a couple in here, and I want to say to you, your mind will change when this happens. You'll go, wow, I don't feel like being a complete prick today. That's super important. You feel like you're always tense? Well, that's breath and water at the very start. And there is and again, we're not talking about clinical depression that's caused by an imbalance in brain chemistry. I wouldn't even begin to pick that apart. And there are too many moving parts to even start doing that without all your blood work being done and all, what your exercise is like. And if you're even doing any and all that kind of like, they will jump to that shit so fast, but I would never do that. So here's what I would say is that there are two primary negative emotions that human beings experience on the regular: anger and sadness, anger and depression, right? Those would be the malaise. Anxiety is like a mix of the two, because anxiety is I'm mad about something that I can't do anything about, right? So you feel trapped. That would be the fight, flight, or freeze part of it. Anxiety would be the frozen part, if that makes sense. And again, I say this because I dealt with, when I was doing Queer as Folk, season 3, I started having panic attacks after the show was over, like for the year, like during my hiatus. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I do not have, hold on. Okay. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I am not the kind of person I would think that would have panic attacks. And then I realized Michael is. My character on Queer as Folk, who I spent 20 hours a day doing lines and feelings for, speaking and feeling for as this character for long stretches over a lot of drama, he would absolutely have them. And I was like, all right, I'm not taking on another person, even if they're fictional, their maladies. Not going to do it. So I'm not doing the weave. We're talking about a specific topic because it's a Thursday show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's not a normal show. So welcome, and maybe just contemplate this, right? You don't have to be on board with all of it, but I'm just, yes, Michael was really high strung. He was. And it was partly because of all the, in one season, we had one of our characters become an addict, and I was the character that was reaching out to him to try and pull him out of it. And my uncle died in the show. And never mind the regular order of like Michael in the closet being afraid to come out, all that stuff. Like, so it was a stack of shit. And you can only go there if you're willing to go there. Even the needle scene in, I believe it was season 4. They all run together to me as a storyline. But there was a scene where Michael finds out that Ben, his partner who is HIV positive, has been using steroids. And it's because he's afraid he's going to waste away. So he's been using steroids. And so Michael finds one of his needles in the trash and is threatening to jab himself with it, where he'll become positive too, as a way of like motivating him to stop doing it. It was like a really intense scene. And so to get there, I had to be marginally suicidal for the scene to work. I had to get to the point where you could believe that I was going to do it. And to get there, there's no line. There's several lines that I'm going to do it and it would be fine and all that stuff. But the mental state I was in, you had to see that that was real. So I had to go there. And if you have an argument, you and I have an argument, whoever you are out there, and you and I meet and we have a little dust up, that's gone. It happens once. We might grind over it a little, but not at the intensity of the primary argument. But when you're acting, you do that over and over and over at the same intensity level, sometimes over the course of a couple of days. And so there's wear and tear. There really is, on your emotional state and on your physical person, because you store all that in your body as well. I had the birthday party scene where Brian outs Michael to Tracy, who's this girl at work who has kind of a crush on him but doesn't know he's gay, and he basically just brings her to the party just to break her heart, just to like rip the Band-Aid off, and he doesn't care about what happens to her. And it's all fun and then it's terrible. All fun and then terrible. And we shot that over the course of 2 days, multiple extras, all kinds of stuff going on. And so you had to do it again and again and again and again and again. And at lunch the second day, I didn't eat lunch because I was just exhausted. And I went over and I sat on the couch. There's like 112 extras and the crew and everybody. And I just sat on the couch sobbing because I just was raw. I'd just been burning myself down. And Michael, my character, never saw any of it coming. He was always optimistic and never saw the hurt coming. It always caught him off guard. So I had to start from scratch, right? Each time I had to be like, hey, I'm good. I'm not good. Hey, I'm good. And that's rough. If you could almost stay in that emotion, you could just wear it out and you're done. Anyway, so I'm sobbing on the couch, just falling apart. And and Sheila, our producer, walks over and she puts her hand on my back and she goes, are you okay? And I said, I've just been betrayed by my best friend 21 times in 3 hours. No. No, I'm not okay. I'll be fine after lunch. So that's gives some example of how you can stack the emotions, right? And the damage that can be done. So season 3, I end up with panic attacks. Like I literally feel like I'm having a heart attack. I'm going to die. It was right after we got back home. And a lot of it was tied to this stuff because I wasn't prepared or aware of the physical ramifications of what I was doing. And what fixed it, and I went to the doctor and they said, it's panic disorder and you'll probably have it your whole life and all that stuff. Okay. And I was like, not me. Most people have it their life. Okay, fine. Not me. That was my attitude. And so what I did was, and it was super weird, but I don't care, is that anytime I felt a panic attack coming on, I started doing yoga. I started literally doing yoga stances because all yoga is, if you break it down, is twisting your body into a shape where you can only breathe in your gut. This light bulb went on when I was doing these stances and I was like, oh shit. When I do these poses, and that kind of stuff, whether it's the warrior pose where you're twisting your upper body, the reason it works is because the muscles constrict your upper chest and your belly is the only place the air can go. Right? And I was like, this light bulb went off. And so it fixed it. Like I don't have them anymore. I've never had them since. It was a whole summer and it fucking sucked, but it went away. And it was because I trained my body to go breathe in my gut. And then once I realized that, I had that thing like, oh, anytime I'm even anxious about stuff, I'm like, look at, how am I sitting? First, do I have enough water in my system? Second, then we could check and see if there's something else going on, right? You batten down the hatches, it's the kind of thing that happens when I'm doing, and welcome to the Thursday show, by the way. This is one of the reasons this is the greatest live stream in the history of live streams, is that I just feel like we got to talk about this stuff sometimes, and we broadened it out in the morning show, so the afternoon I can do clips. Now, so the breath is super important. And one of the reasons why social media can be pretty good for, as far as community, but it can turn really dark is because of how people are on their phones, how much they focus on the locus of control. That's exactly right. What can you control in your perimeter, right? How you should try new yoga. You assume I haven't, bald Thanos. I told you, whenever I had the feeling, I would just start doing it. Believe me, that was a couple of times before or after getting in and out of the shower. So, yeah, enjoy that mental image. So, this is what I'm trying to, clarify for everybody, is that start with what you can control directly in your environment. One of them is breathing right, and the other one is making sure you have enough hydration. Because before you start jumping to the next conclusion that your worry is worthwhile and that you should stress and maybe there is a reason to know, my God, let's say there is a real reason to be stressed, there is a real reason to be anxious, there is a real reason to be, possibly depressed even. You're like, oh shit, something's coming. With the proper breath and hydration and food, you will handle it better when it does arrive. On behalf of the people that you care about. You want to be, as my mom said, try to be useful as well as ornamental. And the first one, useful, a lot of that is, my motivation for working out, eating right, getting enough sleep, all those kind of things is really leftover Boy Scout shit from, be prepared. If something goes down, you want to, there's nothing wrong with being a bystander in something if you can't help, but you don't want to be an obstacle. And best case scenario, you want to help. And that's true of your own emergencies, your own anxious feelings. Yeah, your own anxiety. Like, how can I help this first? So, breath and water, breath and hydration. If you're too far gone, you might need, I don't do Gatorade, but like even Pedialyte, something with enough minerals in it, right? So do those first. Talk to your doctor. No doctor is going to disagree with me about posture and water, no matter what else they tell you to do. Yes, Brondo works perfectly. If I could, and by the way, today's show is brought to you by Brondo. It's what plants crave. Right? No, vodka won't work, Hungry Ghost. It'll make things worse. Alcohol dehydrates you. But anyways, like I said, yes, all doctors will agree with me on this. You will see no variation. It doesn't mean you do whatever else they do, whatever else they prescribe or tell you to do for your own health, right? Doesn't mean do those things, but it will always help those other things. Because your body is reacting to the reality, even if you aren't, of your immediate circumstance. And if you're not getting enough water and breath, that's panic, especially breath. So breath all happens up here. Think about if somebody's ever been running because they're afraid or something. All the breath happens up there. It's a cheap oxygen exchange. The cilia at the top of your lungs aren't as efficient as the ones at the bottom. So when you breathe into the bottom, you're pulling more oxygen into your body, and your brain uses whatever 60% of the oxygen your body takes in goes to your brain. And if you're like, I'm anxious, that's because your brain's going, we don't have enough oxygen, even if the rest of your body is, because you're doing this cheap and dirty shit up here. So breathing deep. Now I can already tell that some of you are breathing deep just because you're hearing this. And I want you to remember this the next time you make fun of someone who's running an exercise class that reminds people to breathe. Okay? Because that became a running gag. Don't forget to breathe. Oh, I'm going to forget to breathe and breathe. A lot of people forget to breathe all the time. You don't even realize you're stopping. Right? Okay, so sit up straight and try to breathe deep. Those will help you immensely deal with those things. And if you want to be of use to the people around you, especially when the world goes to shit occasionally, which it will do, that's part of your practice. That's got to be part of your practice. Posture and breath. Right? Yeah, did I catch you? And some of you start breathing deep and you're like, motherfucker, I'm being hypnotized. This son of a bitch. Right. But it is true. And whatever else treatments, prescriptions you get from your doctor and all that kind of stuff, it will all be aided by that. So it will help. Deep, calm breaths and enough hydration. That will help no matter what. Yeah, MK Ultra. That's what I am. This is my low budget MK Ultra. I wish I could get a giant government contract, but I just, you know what? They asked me, but I can't be mean to mice. Can't do it. So yeah, and posture is a big part of it. And so many people are like this. Well, fuck. What's the body posture of this in public? Like if you saw somebody walking like this, you'd go, that person's afraid. That person's nervous. That person's probably got agoraphobia, right? Think of that. Think of that like posture. What would you say about a person who's got that kind of posture in public, right? Scoliosis doesn't necessarily take you forward. It can turn you sideways. There's a lot of variations of it, but no. But if somebody's back is arched like that and they're down like this, there's a timidity that's built into that posture, right? What comes along with timidity? A fear of the inability to face things if they come up. If I raise my voice, if I stand up straight, if I'm seen, I will attract attention. I have no idea how to deal with that. So I'll just make myself invisible, right? Your body knows that's most of the time how that works, right? Your body is acting not like, oh, they're just on their phone. Your body isn't going, oh, you're just on your phone. Your body's going, oh shit, what are we trying to hide from? Is there a saber-toothed tiger on that rock, right? Yes, you will always feel better if your posture is better. And I have to remind myself of this all the time too, right? Addicted to adrenaline. Usually, if you're talking about social media, it's addiction to dopamine, because you get this like shot of righteous indignation, which is, the idiot's version of confidence, right? And like that's why a lot of people get a feeling of, especially maggots, tend to feel. If you look at what they speak about, they get very anxious about their place in the world. They feel like like you see this with evangelical Christians, where they're like, we're the most persecuted group in the world. And like, yeah, tell that to the Yazidis and fucking Western Syria, right? But they're like, we're the most persecuted people in the world, and they tell themselves this all the time. So how do you make up for that if you don't have confidence in your belief and your faith? And again, so what if your kingdom is in this world but not of it? Who cares if you're the most persecuted? In that, it's almost like a point of pride of that your faith has to be deeper to carry. I'm sorry, I'm thinking this through. That's my fault. I blame myself. So you'll see this in a lot of maggots and trolls online. They have no personal confidence, not really. So they seek it out in two directions. One is they chase after the Jordan Petersons and the kind of like no fear gear kind of accessories kind of shit to make up for that confidence. So they seek reasons to be confident. They do pickup artist camps, and they do like programs for self-confidence and that kind of stuff. And they seek it out, which is nothing wrong with that in particular, but it's almost pathological on that side. And then the other side, they go around dunking on people. And dunking people, like people who need to dunk on someone to feel better about themselves, it's another version of that same weakness. And it's righteous indignation and a feeling of like superiority that's not based on true confidence. Because it's only there when it's happening. It's like you get that dopamine hit. Because they'll go from like, boom, I showed that motherfucker, to what else? Oh, damn it, right? They vacillate from it. So confidence is consistent and built over time. It's, here comes the word, incremental. It's incremental. It has to be built on something, a value, either yours or someone else's, your family name, or yourself and what you've accomplished, right? Oh, hey, thanks, Gamer Geek. Gamer Geeko. I'm going to call it that. Ooh, Gamer Geeko. Thank you. What about deep-seated self-hatred? I have to say, just the way you're saying that, I can tell that comes from a place of ego. My friend Judy Toll, rest her soul, who was a lovely, lovely, lovely human being, had a great joke, which sums up so many people. And her joke was, my psychiatrist and I figured out what my problem is. Apparently, I think I'm a piece of shit that the world revolves around. That's what deep-seated self-hatred is. If it's not based on something. Again, if you're most of the time, the BTK killers and the Ted Bundys of the world have a reason to have deep-seated self-hatred, but they don't believe it. They don't act on it. I know, it's so brilliant. God bless her. She was such a sweetheart. Right? So, even self-focused, if everything is based on self-focus, it is in its own way a form of egotism. Now, you guys know I used to work with and for Marianne Williamson back in the day when she was just lecturing, pre-Oprah. Before Oprah used Marianne's first book, A Return to Love, which was basically the taking a bunch of her lectures and turning them into chapters, and released it. And Oprah made her like the first of her book club. And so it rocketed Marianne Williamson to stardom, and she sold 12 million copies. It was nuts. The book's been translated into a bunch of stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff in it. However, there is a movement in the spiritual community, especially in the sort of the granola California world, and also I think modern psychology, where they talk about the ego, and that this world is of the ego, and this is it's always the ego that we're reacting to and with, and the ego is telling you this, and the ego, and it just seals. I have to say, when they talk about it, it sounds like the ego is just a placeholder for the devil, like whatever, like old Christian texts used to say about the devil. They've just tried another word. It's like when people go the universe instead of God, and you're like, what's the fucking difference? You just don't like the religious aspect of the word God, so you use universe, but it's the same concept. It's just untethered by the mistakes of humanity, which is fine, but that's just at least know that's what it is. But on the other side, they don't seem to, most people recognize that. The universe is another word for saying God to a lot of people. Because it's sort of like a patterned way of thinking. It fills that puzzle piece hole. For where God used to be, they pluck it out and pop universe in there and continue on. Because the universe can punish and gift and all those things and guide you and not guide you and show you lessons and yada yada. All right. So but ego, the way they would talk about ego, I always had a problem with. And maybe this is because I have a healthy one. But they would always talk about the ego in terms of just almost demonic stuff. The ego is trying to make you think this world is real. The ego is trying to make you focus on the physical and not the spiritual. And my feeling was like, okay, let's just take you at face value, that's what the ego is supposed to do. It's supposed to keep you focused on the physical and in the present moment and not thinking about the outer universe or what life is, beyond this life for us all. Right. I'll take you at face value on that. All right. My question is like, if there is a universe or a God that created this place, right, then it created it for a reason. And there's really only two: education and entertainment. It's exciting. It's full of, like a good movie. It's full of, sorrow and laughter and all kinds of stuff. And yet at some point along the way, you learn something. That's the only reason that I can think of. And again, I am not a post-temporal godlike being that might have a bunch of other silly plans that I'm not aware of. And remind me to, there's a line in Kingdom of Heaven that I just, like, I'm in love with right now, and I'll tell you in a second. But if the ego exists, then it was created along with everything else. And if the ego's job is to make you think this world is real and make you focus on the physical, then maybe that's what it's supposed to do. Maybe that's why it was created. Maybe if you're always thinking, my reward will be in the next life, you'll blow off everything worthwhile about this one. Right? And so the ego is in this tug and balance between, you have to have some level of faith and optimism to even move forward, which is a driving force, but you also have to be centered in the reality that you're in so that you can make a difference and actually commit. And it's like if you were watching a movie and there was somebody sitting next to you in the fucking theater and they're like, you're watching a horror movie and you're like, this is just fucking ketchup. That doesn't even look like real blood. It's like, the prosthetics in this are fucking weak. You know what I mean? There's it's gonna be a cat. You watch. It's gonna be a cat. It's not the killer. It's a cat, right? It would ruin the movie for you. And there's value in, in all entertainment in that regard. You will either learn how to do something or not do something, and you will also be entertained while it happens. Okay? Does that make sense? And so the ego is not this person who wants to keep you trapped in the movie theater forever. It's the person who walks along and says to your friend, shh, people are trying to watch the fucking movie. Right? So but your ego is so huge, you think you're the universe? Yeah, I don't. Oh, you're talking to the ouch, I see. No, I mean, you can't be, there's a Buddhist idea that we are all like rays of the sun. We cannot be separated from it, but we are not the whole thing itself. And we may be in the process of growing into our whole self. And that's a philosophical discussion that I find a jerk off, if I may so, using, strictly, theological terms. But I believe if everything that they were saying about the ego, and they say it in the pejorative, was true, then it is invaluable to committing to this life. So you live above and through the things that are in front of you in a way that's meaningful and not like, this is all a game. Life doesn't matter. When you die, you disappear, or when you die, there's a heaven, and as long as you say the right words, the magic phrase, you'll get in anyways, no matter what the fuck you do. Right? To me, that just sucks the meaning out of life. It should mean something. And so the ego might have a value of saying, like, focus on the physical, your physical needs, your physical wants, your physical desires, your physical life, this earth plane, right? And not what will happen beyond this. Because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and you have no control over it. And so belief in it or not may or may not help you through certain periods of time, but forgetting about it certainly will make this place more intense and drive you towards it, and will bring you towards the solution you may be seeking in this life, right? And so I value both of those things. I think the ego has to bring you home to your body. And if you think about what does that ultimately mean, well, it brings you to your breath, it brings you to your hydration, brings you to proper food, using your body, treating your body as a temple, all those things we've heard, comes out of what I would say is the good aspect of ego in the way they're using it. And again, these are all terms that mean nothing. They're attributable words, and they get used in such a slipshod kind of a way that's probably why I push back. Yes, the great architect. Yeah, that's we Masons use that phrase, and it's a pluralistic. There's a reason why Freemasons are a pluralistic, diverse group in terms of religion, especially, is because in the immortal words of Albert Pike, everyone is entitled to their own unique mistake. That's the greatest line about the variations of religion on this that I've ever heard. Right? So everyone's entitled to their own unique mistake. It's so just precious. Can you imagine being the guy who wrote that the first time and just write that on a piece of paper and dropping it someplace, and people are like, motherfucker, right? So good. So the other thing is, that kingdom of heaven line, there was a thing because of the Catholic Church and this kind of, and historically and materially, there's a lot of reasons why you would create anti-suicide beliefs and laws in your own stuff to keep people from doing it, so that they would, to keep your people healthy and alive, because the cascading effect of doing yourself in also harms everybody else, and you can one person doing it can destroy an entire village. So saying you can't go to heaven if that's the most meaningful thing to everybody, if you commit suicide, was a way of, I understand why they would try to morally police people around that. So the Catholic Church had this thing where if you off yourself, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven and unless your head is separated from your body. So they used to cut your head off when you were dead. The other thing, too, is that a burned body could not enter the kingdom of heaven, largely because, you didn't want, you don't want to have to properly bury an army that was rotting all over your field and, after a battle. The idea that you have to bury all these guys and be their shepherd to the other side was ridiculous. You could burn them and they don't go to heaven. And we don't have to see these assholes try to kill us, even from another, similarly believing tribe. So there's a point where this Muslim leader was attacking the people inside, all again, Arab, Jewish, Christian, all gathering in Jerusalem inside the fortress, and Orlando Bloom plays the guy who his father was made king of Jerusalem, and then he takes it over, and he's French, and so he had to go on this pilgrimage down there and all this stuff. And there's some great stuff in his lines about it, because he's like the Jimmy Carter of knights. Let's just put it that way. Like, he really lived it. And the first thing he did when he took power, when his dad died and he became the king, was to dig wells for all the people, and he himself joined in it. And this is all, part of history. But there was a time where they were being attacked. This giant Muslim army had gathered outside, and they were flinging bombs and explosives in using catapults into the place, and it killed lots of people. And they couldn't bury them because they were trapped inside the city because it was a siege. And so they put them in a pit and they burned all the bodies. And the priest said, he goes, and this is the thing, this is the part that I loved. They're going to burn the bodies. And the priest says, a burned body cannot enter heaven. And he says, it's something to the effect of, God will understand that, we don't burn these bodies. Everybody here is going to be dead of disease in a matter of days. God will understand. And if he doesn't understand, then he is not God, and we have nothing to fear. Are you like Donald Davenport, or is he like you? Donald Davenport is exactly like me, except I have a bigger ego, in the good sense. I'm more full of myself than Donald Davenport is. That's it. So I love that thing. God will understand, and if he doesn't understand, then he is not God. And before they have the final day of this siege in Kingdom of Heaven, if you've ever seen it, he gives a speech. They often have these like Braveheart speeches with a bunch of people, but his point is, if we fall, everybody here is dead. They're going to kill men, women, and children. They're going to slaughter everybody. And this isn't racism or conjecture, right? This is true. That's what they do. Put babies on spikes. Like, that's how it's going to work. So if you fall, your weapon falls, that means your family and everybody around you is going to die. So you better fight until you have absolutely nothing left, because they're going to breach this wall and come through. And he makes a point. He says, we do not fight for the stones built on stones upon stones of other people, because the army we fight were not alive when the first wrong was delivered. None of them were. None of them can be offended by what was allegedly done here hundreds of years ago. It's absurd. And we are not fighting to protect these rocks, or whose rock gets stacked on top of who else's rock. That's not what we're doing. We're fighting for the men, women, and children in this building, in this giant fortress. Because if we lose, they die. We have to hold this army, or we're all dead. Every child in this place is going to be burned alive. So that's what we're fighting. We're not fighting for this like abstract, right? We're fighting for human life. And with every breath, every person here, is responsible for every other person here. That's what we're fighting for. And it's probably the most like honest. He's not on a horse when he says it. He's just standing there. It's a little like mid-level. He's not riding back and forth, in front of them, yelling something poetic and loud and a word of charge. He says it because it's just true. If we fall, everybody here is dead. And so think of that with every stroke of your sword, every bash of your shield. That's what you have to think about. And they won. I mean, spoiler alert, it's history. So, but they fought this army that was way bigger to a standstill, and there was a truce, and they got passage to the seas so that they could travel to Christian lands and leave Jerusalem without everybody dying. Yeah, he was a baron. That's right. He was to be king, right? So, anyways, that whole that line, yeah, he surrendered to Saladin, right? But Saladin reached, they in their little truce meeting, he says, we will either come to this agreement or we're all going to die here because we're not going to let you kill everybody in there, and you have to kill everybody in there to clear the place. We know that, you know that. So if you try, we're going to kill you. We're going to take 10 of you with us. Every one of us is going to take 10 of you with us. And that's when Saladin realizes, especially after the tactical stuff. If you haven't seen it, it's from a battle tactics thing. It's fascinating to watch because it's real technology from the time and all this other stuff, and it's really heavy duty. But the important thing is that Saladin realizes this is true and it's not worth it. And when he's walking away, he goes, "What is Jerusalem worth?" Like the Baron says to him, Orlando Bloom's character says, "What is Jerusalem worth?" And he says, "Nothing and everything." Right. So the point was, it was more about like, it's not it's that if I lose it, my own people will kill me, essentially. So, but again, the important line in this, and if you want to watch it, that's fine. But the important line was him saying, God will understand, and if he doesn't understand, then he is not God. Freemason is a cult? No, it isn't. Freemasonry is not a cult. I don't know where you get that, but good luck. One would think that in a cult, you would at least need uniformity of belief amongst the members, both political and religious. As a matter of fact, it is built on the idea that you can have discourse you can disagree without being disagreeable at its root. So, no. Philip Bittner's going to be on tomorrow, guys. Yeah. So, that was a pretty good hour. I think we talked about a lot of stuff. And I hope today, I'll let you guys go, and I'll see you this afternoon at 4 o'clock Pacific time for Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, the greatest live stream in the history of live streams until the next one. No, he was not. Bush was not. No. Yeah, occult means hidden. Yeah, but occult and cult are different. That's where most people, there are hidden Christian beliefs. There are hidden rabbinical teachings that are hidden until they aren't, until they are revealed or whatever. Jesus Christ, no pun intended. The Revelations was, called about the apocalypse, and the apocalypse doesn't mean the destruction of everything. It's when all will be known. Hal's been reading his Trump Bible. No, I don't have to. This will bug you. Hold on. I don't have to read my Trump Bible. I have my Masonic one right here. Right alongside, by the way, my copy of Tara Dublin's book, The Sound of Settling. So pick it up today at TaraDublinRocks.com. So things to consider. And don't let the fact that I'm right dog you too much. But the important thing is, again, is breathe, make sure you're hydrated, eat some good food, and take care of yourself. Because if you care, if you have true empathy and belief, and these things matter to you, all the things you say matter to you actually do, then when something rough happens, you want to be the most useful person in the room. Yeah. Does that make sense? I hope so, because it does to me. Did she? Yeah, Tara wrote a book. Did she? Did anybody know about that? Does my lodge have windows? No. No, it does not. But just because something doesn't have windows doesn't mean it's a cult. Is your closet a cult? So, yeah. Quit pissing on the electric fence, Alan. I can't. Yes, so posture, breath, water. Hydrate yourselves, take care of yourselves, and take care of somebody else. That's one of my favorite lines that George Carlin has ever spoken. I took it as my sign-off because I thought it was such a great phrase. That's where it comes from. He says that to his crowd. It's one of the, during his angry years, it's one of the most magnanimous things he's ever said. And the movie is called Kingdom of Heaven. Freemasons are not a cult. Try harder, DH Empress. They're not a cult. I know because I am one. Not in a cult. I am not ordered by the leadership to believe anything. And my interpretation of everything we do is up to me as a person. That is the opposite of a cult. There is no freedom and democracy in a cult. Doesn't work. Again, Freemasons are in this country are why are Freemasons in the South bigots? Because of the break between what were called like the Southern Freemasons and like they were segregated effectively when they started coming out because they couldn't reconcile their own issues with that. In the North, they weren't, and that became the dominant thread in America. It was a split just like the country, during that period of time. They're not now. Prince Hall Masons are the black only Mason groups, and they're the only racially homogenous Masonry groups out there. You have to be black. You can only join if you're black, whereas what would be called regular order Freemasonry, you can be any race and any religion. So, you think about the Royal Order of Jesters. I think they're hilarious, and I wanted to join. There's not a chapter near me. Yes. There's definitely, my concern is the cult of the kidney, because well, that was weird.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
All right, good. Can anyone become a Freemason? Atheists can't, and it's for men. It is not. Women don't need it. It's not that women can't become Masons. It's that women don't need to become Masons. Women are matured by life in a way that men are not. Men need special training to be decent. Women do not. That's why Freemasonry is just for men. Women, yes, there's the Order of the Eastern Star, which is the women's version of it, which is for the esoteric aspects of it. But the reason why Masonry is men only is because men are particularly shitty if they are not made good. Yeah, trans men would be welcome. I can't see why not. You could argue that Masonry for years, for centuries even, has been an antidote to the more toxic aspects of testosterone running through your body. No, atheists cannot join. You have to believe in something beyond this life, or no one can technically trust your oath. Because if you're Darwinist, it doesn't mean you can't be moral. That always becomes part of the argument when we talk about this shit. It doesn't mean you can't be, but there's no reason for you to be. You don't believe there's a price to pay or a lesson to be learned after this life. You're just nothing when you die. So if you promise something, how do I know you're going to take it? Now, there's always people who could be lying or whatever, but there's a difference in that lying and that cross of the belief system. Not on the scale that men do, Hungry Ghost. So, no, my dad is not. My grandfather was. So, yeah. What a silly sweeping statement. How? How? I mean, again, it has to be, this is something that's centuries old, so. That's fine. You're allowed to disagree. That's totally cool. It is totally cool. Don't join. It's all right. You don't have to. And I and my fellow Freemasons will continue to fight for pluralism in society, proper democracy, and public libraries and public schools, the Enlightenment ideals. That's the point. You don't have to join to benefit. I'm in the Scottish Rite. I'm 32nd degree. For all that, to whoever that matters to. Oh, this is a long conversation. It always is, and it always falls back to the same one. It always falls back to why not's the other people. And the simplest reason I can give, and I want people to really contemplate this and recognize this, that girls especially and boys, when they are maturing through puberty, boys' physical strength 10x's from 12 to 16 years old. And that power comes on so fast and can be so misused that it needs respectful training. And so over the centuries, different ways of doing that, be it the priesthood, the military, masonry, other orders and stuff, have popped up as a way of training them to go from, to make, good men better. Can't make bad men good because it's too late in some ways. You can make them okay, but you can't make them good. And so the idea is that you need to train men to be their best. That is not necessarily something that I'm sure some women do, but as a general order of things is not something women carry as a burden. Yes, women mature faster. They mature more emotionally. It has a lot to do with their biochemistry, but it also has a lot to do with the window of their child rearing years being, fixated. And so that makes them make decisions based on that in a way that men might not even think about, because the minute we become able to fertilize an egg till the day we die, we have the same kind of power in that regard, but we do not have the same responsibility. And so it is really about training that responsibility into men to make them better. Does that make sense? And to do that, it has to be isolated to that particular problem. And so with a bunch of women around, it wouldn't necessarily work, is all. It's not that they're being shunned. It's that guys need to get their shit together. That help? You understand it? Seems a bit antiquated. It's not. Since the degradation of groups like that in the country, ever since the Alex Joneses of the world have started to paint Masonry and other groups like that as being bad or part of some big conspiracy, they have dwindled. Our membership is lower than it was back in the day, and there are fewer gentlemen. Look online, look at how people mistreat each other and how vile they can be. That's untrained young men, by and large. Women still do their shit, and that's not a thing. But I can't control that. Again, your locus of control matters. And no, you cannot be invited to be a Mason. You have to ask. Knock and it shall be opened, as the good book says. That's the idea, is that you have to present yourself. No one's going to try and recruit you. That's not how it works. It has to be an act of willingness and awareness. Like getting help in AA or something like that. You know what I mean? Forcing someone into AA wouldn't necessarily work, right? They have to find it themselves, because that's how it will take. It's the same thing. You think that's directly related to membership in the Freemasons? No, I don't. A serious male problem that takes real men to fix. Exactly, Wifflepoof. And that's why Masonry occurred in the first place. That's why. It's why it was necessary. It's why it still is. And hopefully we'll get, was there Masons before Christ? Yes, arguably. I mean, there were versions of it, yeah. I mean, you're going back into esoteric, prehistory in a lot of ways, but if your dad was a Shriner, he was a Mason. Because all Shriners are Masons, not all Masons are Shriners, if that makes sense. It's another order. I want to be Mason. No, you have to go find your local lodge and go to their monthly dinner. Meet them. You have to go back a few times. You got to see if you mix well with them. Are Masons a dry society? No. They're not dry society. I mean, there could be dry lodges. There's nothing wrong with that. And you could join one specifically for that reason. Shriners loaned you cars, the little tiny ones. Sorry, Ronald Reagan was what? Mozart. Yes, Mozart was a Freemason. That's true. Ronald Reagan was made an honorary Freemason. By whom? You can't be made an honorary Freemason. It's not how it works at all. Not at all. No. Silliness. If somebody did that, it would be against the rules essentially, and so that would be apocryphal. You couldn't do it. It wouldn't count. Yeah. Yeah, many of the founding fathers were, absolutely. And the country wouldn't exist without them, because it was the fact that Ben Franklin went over and joined Lafayette's lodge and convinced the French to help us in the fight against the British in the Revolutionary War. And that's why there's a lot of Fayette counties all over the, there might be one near you if you live in the United States, is because of Lafayette, and because specifically Benjamin Franklin, as a Mason, went over there, joined his lodge, and they spoke freely about democracy in an area. And it's why that's illegal in a lot of countries. Iran, Russia, China, it's illegal there. Look where it's not allowed, and then you'll know, what it's for. The every lodge group has a Grand Lodge. Most states are like that, and so California has a Grand Lodge. It's in San Francisco on Mason Street, and there's a Masonic Hall there, and there's a library there. It's great. I'll eventually become a 33-degree Mason, but I'll probably be 90. But the point is that everybody has a Grand Lodge. Countries have them as well. And Iran had a Grand Lodge, and they meet in exile in our lodge building in Los Angeles because of the number of Persian people that live in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles area. And so they were driven out. And so they have to have their meetings there in exile because they're not allowed. Because of the very thing that, you can speak of, you can use whatever religious book you want to do your vows and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. But in the lodge, we don't talk politics and religion to each other in specifics. You talk the philosophy of it. And that way, you keep the fights to a minimum, but you also talk about the essence of why you believe what you believe. Yeah. Are the Grateful Dead all Masons? No, I don't think so. And yeah, St. Jude is a Mason organization. So is obviously the Shriners Hospital. That came out of Masonry. Yeah. Danny Thomas was one. I love Dave Allen. Always had a scotch in his hand. I love Dave Allen. Yeah. I'll leave you with one of my current favorite jokes. And the atheists who are all mad and butthurt right now, who are probably breathing very poorly and need a glass of water right now, will love this. Dave Allen told his joke. He goes, the Pope and this atheist were having an argument. They'd been talking for hours and hours, back and forth and arguing about, the possibility of life everlasting and humanity and all this stuff. And the Pope finally, fed up, said, "You know what you are? You know what you are? You are like a man who is totally blindfolded in a dark room looking for a black cat that is not there." And the atheist said to the Pope, "Well, I think we have a lot in common, Your Holiness." "What do you mean we have a lot in common?" "Well, I too would say that you are a man that is totally blindfolded in a dark room looking for a black cat that isn't there. Only difference is you seem to have found him." Suck on that. Hit that like. See you this afternoon, everybody.